Hey there, fellow cinephiles. Ready to take a deep dive into the world of Indian cinema? We've got a single movie review on deck today for Mazaka, a comedy of errors.
Hmm.
And it's packed with enough opinions to help you decide if this one's worth adding to your watch list.
Right.
The premise is intriguing.
Yeah.
A father and son on a quest for love and family,
Yep.
leaving a trail of delightful chaos in their wake.
Sounds fun.
Sounds like a recipe for some good laughs, right?
It certainly does. And the review seems to agree,
Yeah.
placing a lot of emphasis on the film's comedic elements, particularly the performances of Rao Ramesh and Murali Sharma.
That's what caught my eye, too.
Yeah.
Rao Ramesh always brings a certain energy to his roles, so I'm curious to see how that translates into a comedic setting. What struck you about the review's take on his performance?
Well, they actually call him the true hero of the film,
Oh, wow.
which I found interesting. Apparently, his comedic timing is impeccable,
Oh.
elevating even simple scenes, like a family argument,
Right.
into something hilarious.
Wow.
They even compared it to the mayhem of a WhatsApp family group chat.
Oh, I can totally picture that.
Yeah.
We've all been in those chaotic group chats. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're talking laugh out loud funny,
Oh, yeah.
not just a few chuckles here and there.
That seems to be the consensus.
Okay.
The review suggests he injects humor into every situation,
Right.
whether he's yelling,
Nah.
scheming, or even in romantic scenes.
That makes me want to see it for myself to see if the humor lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about the positives,
Okay.
the review also mentions some pacing issues, particularly in the second half.
Oh, really?
It sounds like the plot takes a backseat to extended comedic sequences.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that could detract from the overall enjoyment?
It's definitely a valid concern.
Yeah.
The review indicates that the second half almost becomes a comedy circus,
Oh, wow.
with minimal plot progression.
Oh.
They even joke that it needs a second intermission.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder,
Mm.
does a comedy need a strong plot if the laughs are consistent?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And it's something we see debated with comedic films across different cultures.
Huh?
Take, for example, some of the classic Bollywood comedies of the 80s.
Right.
Many of them relied heavily on slapstick humor and over-the-top situations,
Yeah.
with the plot serving as a mere framework for the gags.
That's true. I'm thinking of some of those iconic Govinda movies
Yeah.
where the plot was almost secondary to the sheer energy and comedic timing of the actors.
Exactly.
It seems like Mazaka might be taking a similar approach,
Okay.
prioritizing entertainment over a tightly woven narrative. But even if the plot feels thin,
Right.
a strong dynamic between the father and son could help carry the film, right?
Absolutely.
The review did highlight their chemistry as a high point.
The review specifically mentions the bond between Sundeep Kishan and Rao Ramesh as a major strength, suggesting it might compensate for some of the film's weaknesses.
You mentioned classic Bollywood comedies.
Yeah.
Do you see any parallels between those films and what the review describes in Mazaka? Is there a risk of the film feeling outdated or too reliant on tropes?
That's a perceptive observation.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible that Mazaka leans on some familiar comedic tropes,
Okay.
particularly in its portrayal of the father-son dynamic.
Yeah.
But the review also hints at a more contemporary approach to humor, particularly with the references to modern technology and social media.
So maybe it strikes a balance between classic and contemporary comedic styles. Speaking of balance,
Right.
let's talk about the female characters.
Okay.
The review touches on some concerns about their development.
Right. It seems the female leads, while played with sincerity by Ritu Varma and Anshu,
Yeah.
might not get the same depth as their male counterparts. The review suggests they suffer from weak backstories,
Right.
and their conflicts lack the emotional weight needed to fully engage the audience.
That's a shame to hear, especially if it feels like they were written as an afterthought, if we're being honest. Sometimes it feels like filmmakers prioritize the male characters' journeys,
Right.
while the women are simply there to support them. Do you think that's the case here? Or is there any indication that the actresses managed to elevate their roles despite the script's limitations?
It's hard to say for certain based on a single review,
Yeah.
but I think it's a valid question to consider,
Right.
especially when discussing representations of women in film.
Exactly.
The review doesn't delve into the actresses' performances in detail,
Okay.
so we're left to speculate on how much agency they bring to their roles despite the potential limitations of the script.
While it's a shame to hear about those shortcomings,
Yeah.
the review does mention a few emotionally resonant moments.
Mhm.
Could you tell us more about those?
Of course. The review highlights a couple of scenes.
Okay.
Specifically, Yashoda's acceptance of Krishna as a son and a heartwarming moment between Venkat and Meera.
Okay.
They suggest these scenes provide genuine emotional depth,
Right.
offering a nice counterpoint to the film's comedic focus.
So even if the overall plot is a bit light,
Yeah.
it sounds like there are still moments that tug at the heartstrings.
Right.
I guess that's what we're all looking for in a film, right? A mix of laughter, emotion, and maybe a few surprises along the way.
Exactly.
It's about finding that balance between entertainment and substance, and it sounds like Mazaka might achieve that in certain moments.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
let's dive into the review's final verdict and see how it all adds up.
Okay.
All right, let's unpack that final verdict. What's the overall takeaway? Is Mazaka a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
The review ultimately lands on a cautious recommendation,
Okay.
awarding it 3 out of 5 stars. They suggest it's a fun, lighthearted watch if you prioritize laughs over a tightly woven plot.
Right.
They specifically recommend it for fans of Rao Ramesh and Murali Sharma's comedic styles,
Yeah.
and for those who enjoy a strong father-son dynamic on screen.
That 3 out of 5 rating is interesting. It's not a glowing endorsement, but it's not a complete dismissal either.
Right.
It seems like the comedic elements are the real driving force here. But I'm still wondering about that plot. We've talked about pacing issues and the emphasis on comedy. But can you give us a sense of what the story is actually about? What are these characters searching for in their quest for love and family?
You're right to point that out.
Yeah.
The review, unfortunately, doesn't dive too deep into the specifics of the plot. It focuses more on the comedic aspects and performances.
Okay.
From what I gather, it revolves around a father and son who are both looking for love and a sense of belonging. Their journey is filled with mishaps and misunderstandings,
Right.
leading to those laugh-out-loud moments the review highlights.
It's almost like we're getting a taste of the delicious dessert without knowing what the main course is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the film's charm, letting the comedy and characters drive the experience rather than a complex narrative.
Perhaps. And sometimes that's all you need from a movie, right?
Right.
A couple of hours of escapism,
Uh-huh.
a chance to laugh and connect with characters you enjoy.
Absolutely. But I think it's important to acknowledge the critique of the underdeveloped female characters. We've seen this issue in countless comedies where the women are relegated to supporting roles without much depth.
Right.
Do you think the review is hinting at a larger problem within the film industry? Or is this just a case of one particular movie falling short?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
While I wouldn't want to generalize based on a single review,
Right.
it does raise concerns about how women are often portrayed in comedic films.
Yeah.
Are they given the same opportunities for growth, complexity, and humor as their male counterparts? That's something we as viewers should be mindful of.
I completely agree. And it's something we try to do here on the deep dive, too.
Yeah.
Looking beyond the surface and considering the bigger picture. So even though Mazaka may offer some genuine laughs and heartwarming moments, it's also important to be aware of its potential shortcomings, particularly in its portrayal of female characters. That said, let's go back to those emotionally resonant scenes you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear more about how they contribute to the overall experience.
Well, the review suggests these moments add a layer of depth to the film, proving it's not just about slapstick humor and silly situations. Take, for instance, Yashoda's acceptance of Krishna as her son.
Okay.
This scene, according to the review, is handled with sincerity and brings a touch of genuine emotion to the forefront.
That's interesting, especially considering the emphasis on comedy.
Right.
It sounds like the filmmakers attempted to weave in moments of genuine human connection amidst the chaos and laughter. What about the scene between Venkat and Meera? What makes that one stand out?
The review describes it as a homely moment.
Okay.
Suggesting it captures the essence of comfort and familiarity. That often defines strong relationships. It sounds like a quiet moment of genuine connection amidst the film's more boisterous comedic sequences.
So it seems like Mazaka might be more than just a laugh-a-minute comedy. Perhaps there's a layer of emotional depth waiting to be discovered beneath the surface. But ultimately the question remains, is it worth watching?
That's for each viewer to decide. As we've discussed, it's a film with both strengths and weaknesses. If you're looking for a thought-provoking drama with complex characters, this might not be your cup of tea. But if you're in the mood for some lighthearted fun, some genuinely funny performances from Rao Ramesh and Murali Sharma, and a few heartwarming moments sprinkled in, then Mazaka might be just what you need.
You know, as we're talking, I keep thinking back to that comparison between classic Bollywood comedies and contemporary humor.
Yeah.
Do you think Mazaka could appeal to a wider audience beyond just fans of Indian cinema? Could it be a crossover hit, so to speak?
That's an interesting question. It's difficult to predict how a film will resonate with audiences from different cultural backgrounds.
Right.
However, the universal language of humor,
Right.
especially physical comedy and situational humor, could potentially bridge those gaps.
Right.
If the comedic elements are strong enough and the father-son dynamic is relatable,
Yeah.
Mazaka might find an audience beyond its intended demographic.
It makes you wonder if certain types of humor are truly universal. A well-timed pratfall or a witty exchange can make people laugh regardless of their cultural background. Maybe Mazaka taps into that shared sense of humor that transcends borders.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And if it does,
Yeah.
that would be a testament to the power of comedy to connect people from different walks of life.
And wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah.
A film that brings laughter and joy to people from all over the world.
Absolutely. And speaking of sharing laughter,
Right.
do you think Mazaka would be a good movie to watch with friends or family? Could it be a fun shared experience?
I think it has the potential for that.
Yeah.
The review highlights those laugh-out-loud moments.
Right.
And we all know that laughter is contagious. Watching a movie like Mazaka with a group of friends or family could amplify the enjoyment, creating a shared experience full of chuckles and lighthearted banter.
I agree. And it's those shared experiences that often make watching movies so memorable.
Right.
It's not just about the film itself,
Yeah.
but about the people you're with and the connections you forge through laughter and shared emotions.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It reminds us that movies can be more than just entertainment. They can be catalysts for connection, conversation, and even a deeper understanding of ourselves and each other.
Well said. And with that in mind, I'm curious to hear what our listeners think about Mazaka.
Me too. Have you seen it? Did you find it as funny as the review suggests? Did the father-son dynamic resonate with you? And most importantly, did you leave the theater with a smile on your face?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And perhaps you can help us answer that lingering question.
Yeah.
Does a film need a strong plot if the performances and comedic elements are truly entertaining?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one we might never have a definitive answer to.
Right.
But that's the beauty of film, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's subjective, it's personal, and it's open to interpretation.
Exactly. What resonates with one person might fall flat for another, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all part of the rich tapestry of human experience.
Beautifully said. And speaking of rich tapestries,
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Mazaka. We've explored the comedic highs, the potential plot pitfalls, and the questions surrounding the portrayal of female characters. It's been quite a journey.
Indeed it has.
Yeah.
And I think we've managed to glean some valuable insights from a single movie review. It just goes to show how much there is to unpack beneath the surface of any film.
Exactly. And that's what makes the deep dive so much fun.
Yeah.
We get to delve into these nuanced conversations, exploring different perspectives and challenging our own assumptions.
Well said.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenging assumptions,
Yeah.
I think that final question we pose to our listeners is worth revisiting.
Okay.
Does a film need a strong plot if the performances and comedic elements are truly entertaining?
It's a question that has lingered in my mind throughout our discussion.
Right.
And I think the answer might be different for everyone. Some viewers crave a compelling narrative that keeps them on the edge of their seats,
Yeah.
while others simply want to escape into a world of laughter and lighthearted fun.
And both perspectives are valid. It's about recognizing what you as an individual viewer prioritize in a cinematic experience. Do you seek intellectual stimulation or pure entertainment?
Right.
Or perhaps a bit of both?
Personally, I think there's room for all kinds of films. We need those thought-provoking dramas that challenge us to think critically about the world around us. But we also need those feel-good comedies that provide an escape from the everyday stresses of life.
Yeah.
Mazaka seems to fall into that latter category.
I agree. And sometimes a good laugh is all you need to recharge and reconnect with your sense of joy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So if you're looking for a film that prioritizes laughs over a complex plot, a film that showcases the comedic talents of Rao Ramesh and Murali Sharma, and a film that might just warm your heart with its father-son dynamic,
Right.
then Mazaka might be worth checking out.
And if you do give it a watch, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Did it live up to the hype? Did you find yourself laughing along with those chaotic family moments? Share your reactions with us. We're always eager to hear from our fellow cinephiles.
Absolutely. Your insights and perspectives enrich our conversations and help us all delve a little deeper into the world of film.
Well said. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Mazaka. We've explored the comedic highs, pondered the plot's potential shortcomings, and sparked a conversation about the importance of balanced representation in film.
It's been a thought-provoking journey, and we hope it's inspired you to seek out Mazaka and form your own opinions.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.
And remember, whether you're a diehard cinephile or just a casual moviegoer, there's always something new to discover in the magic